Do you smoke weed? Why or why not? I used to smoke a bunch last year with a couple of buddies, but after I missed one smoke sesh where I had to bring it, they all started hating on me and blaming my girlfriend for me not going even though there was a snowstorm. When you have friends that are all about that high life and you decide to get clean, they all ditch you. At least that was my experience. I haven't talked to any of them since that happened and got clean. That was 7 months ago now. Mild disagree. If your value of life is to increase your production to make more money, to buy things and elevate your social position, then yeah. If the value of life is to enjoy yourself foremost, then drugs in moderation can help achieve that. Not saying drugs are good for all, but to many, life is ultimately pointless, and being a good hard-working sober person would be more of a waste than enjoying yourself. Depends on your perspective and values. For myself, I think drug addictions are bad, but a life without ever using any drugs, no thanks, and I wouldn't say that is ideal for everyone. Everyone is different, but we are programmed to look down upon those who are not productive in a capitalist society for the benefit of the wealthy people who profit from that. Everyone sets their own values. I've enjoyed my life more since becoming sober. The happiest I ever was when I was a child and sober. The happiest I've been in a long time was since I quit. The substance convinced me I couldn't be. You kind of learn how to get it from yourself instead of needing something else to give it to you. It's really lovely. Fuck, sometimes just breathing around trees makes me fucking euphoric now. That's my position on it as well, and the medication affects me quite differently than neurotypical people because of the way my stupid brain is wired. But the fact remains that I'm microdosing a narcotic that's a Schedule II controlled substance. Smoking weed also alleviates several of my ADHD symptoms. Not so helpful for productivity lol. And if stimulants weren't an option, a regimen of 1 mg THC edibles would probably improve my mental health without inebriating me. But that wouldn't be considered sobriety. Also, I'd about AA or nah, but I'm pretty sure that if I was in a rehab facility or halfway house for unrelated substance abuse issues, they wouldn't let me take Adderall. When I was younger, a friend of mine got a DUI after hitting a tree driving drunk. Wasn't an alcoholic, just an idiot, and he ended up fleeing the state instead of completing a court-ordered treatment program because they weren't going to let him take his legitimately prescribed Xanax. Cold turkey Xanax withdrawal is dangerous. My point is that the distinction between medication and drug abuse is often hazy and dependent upon cultural attitudes toward various substances. Yeah, I totally get that. I was more just chiming in because the absolutist language earlier in the thread reminded me of some of the more hardline takes in parts of the recovery community. I'm prescribed 220s daily and usually only take 1.5. Never had any interest in snorting it because it's just not a recreational drug for me. Once in a blue moon I'll take 3 with like 4 or 5 hours between doses, and even that's pushing it. Can't even imagine what railing 9 is like. I'd be absolutely zooted and worried my heart might explode lol. I wondered what the difference was for me. It turns out I missed the times of being high. I had forgotten how it until felt it again, and otherwise my life had not changed. I once quit for 1.5 years. It was fine because I was clear about it. I wanted to see if pot made me dumb. After that time, I had not jonesed all, but I wanted to do it again and see. It was delightful. Smoking pot adds to my life. Doing psychedelics has been a great contribution to my life and insights. It is true that I wasn't worse when I was sober. My life is better if it includes times when I am not. But that is only in respect to mind-expanding experiences. I hope you'll free for speak for yourself and those whom you knew. Attendee, keep sharing your ideas. No one can speak for all, including me. Too much of a good thing, or a bad thing, can be dangerous. Habitual cannabis use messes with your brain's natural reward system. If you are high all the time in a dirty little apartment playing video games, it may feel fine at the time thanks to the drugs, but ultimately that is a self-delusion. I enjoy drugs, but yes, the optimum healthy mindset would be finding your hard work or passions as rewarding as a drug. Cannabis is so easy, available and only mildly harmful, But this is what makes it so easy to abuse. You can use cannabis daily and still have a good productive life, but for many, this would impair their potential. Why work hard to feel good when you could just smoke a joint? It's the easy route that's rewarding in the short term but a trap some can fall into long term, when it becomes routine. In my opinion, it can become an addiction, which is in itself unpleasant. Sometimes it can make me feel anxious. Smoking is generally not good for your health. Lungs. You might find yourself coughing more often or more easily. I go between smoking every day to only on weekends. I think it's about finding your personal balance in terms of consumption, and I still have not found that myself despite smoking for years. It's enjoyable and has brought a lot of good to my life as well, so it's a trade-off. Same. But I've only been clean for 38 days. I found that weed itself never made me lazy, unambitious. It just made me okay with making excuses for never stepping out of my comfort zone, actively reaching for what I know I'm capable of. I did a lot of personal, creative work stoned, but all the work in the world doesn't mean shit if you don't share it with others. I quit 7 months ago after the worst addiction to weed for half my life. Since quitting I have lost 2 stone, have the motivation to exercise, emotions are way more stable and sleep better. Plus I have saves a load of money. For some people weed makes you okay with not reaching your potential and being happy with your current situation. This is no way to love life. Yeah man, I've gotten to that point where I think before I do anything, oh, it's stab up time, and I've had to take a break because my tolerance got too high and it got to the point where it felt like nothing, except paranoia. That said, the next couple days I'm getting my first cart in a while to take my pen with me to an amusement park, and I'm much more excited than I was before. And yeah, even as a stoner myself, lots of stoners I know like to pretend there's no possible negative effects with weed, but there are times in your life where it's better to be sober. I know I've had times where I needed to straighten up and get my shit together, and it's worth it. I feel this. I smoked pot my sophomore year of college, university at least once a week, sometimes once a day lol. I didn't really enjoy being high at all tbh, I just got tired from it. One time, I had a pot brownie and I got high and went to the dining hall with my friends. That was definitely a fun experience, as well as the times I did dabs with friends, but I didn't really feel much besides that. I was spending way too much money on it. 2. The last time I ever smoked was near the end of the first semester of my junior year in college, which was nearly 5 years ago, November 2016. Haven't touched pot ever since, and I won't ever again. But I also think it should be legalized and that everyone who went to jail over it needs to be freed and compensated. I have been smoking for about 28 years. I quit periodically for a few months a year. I admit the herb and make a small degree of a motivational syndrome happen with me. However, during the periods when I'm not smoking I'm really only about 20% more productive, if even. When I'm smoking I try to keep my ingestion to the late afternoon or evening. I feel that is more responsible. I feel the attitude of being lazy can become manifest no matter what the diversion is, whether it be TV, video games, social media, pornography, even reading. All of these things have gotten in the way of my self-perceived productivity. We can make all sorts of excuses for not showing up. If something isn't working for you, then it's a good idea to reevaluate what role that habit has and what are the mental habits or aversions that support it. As someone else commented, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. In regards to the money, well, I've been growing for 24 years, so it has been the source of much of my finances and I haven't spent money on it. Same, smoked since I was 12. Not sure if it's trauma or the weed, maybe a combo of both, but my memory is shit. Struggle with normal speech and motor skills, cognitively slow, always anxious whether high or not. Blunts got me hooked on tobacco and nicotine, so it quickly became a daily thing. Literally every day for 10 years. No break, so as you can imagine my savings are non-existent and my heart and lungs randomly hurt more often than a 23 years old should. Also weed enabled me to do nothing but sit around, so I rarely grew in intellect or character. became boring and socially inept. With social ineptness came a lot of anxiety and embarrassment. Everything has consequences no matter how minor or fun it is initially, and one consequence often creates a domino effect of even more consequences. 2 days into quitting due to finally starting school and trying to get my shit together. So far I'm okay, just don't know how long this will last or if it's even worth it at this point. I went through something similar. I smoked every day for probably 15 years and then I felt like I needed to get my shit together. It was just making me anxious and draining my bank account, so I quit. I still smoke every now and then, maybe once a month with a friend or something, but I don't buy it and I don't consider myself a smoker anymore. Honestly, it was a lot of little things put together. Had some OCD and paranoia, kind of felt detached from things, laziness, stopped smoking it because it made me feel sick and started using oil which gave me stomach issues. There were little things like poor memory, decreased motor function and I stopped having dreams. Sounds weird, but when I quit all my dreams came back. Anyways, I think weed is okay on occasion, but I think for me personally it just became a crutch so I could just be numb and not deal with pain. I've honestly only been able to use it right before bed or in the middle of the night if I wake up with anxiety. I usually wake up not feeling great afterward, though. I'm glad that you were able to quit if you needed to. I think it's really dangerous for people to say that it's not addictive, habit forming. I personally don't love the way I feel on it, but I can understand why some do. I was using some potent stuff daily. I was having digestive issues and also some OCD type stuff. I also felt like I was losing touch with reality a bit, paranoia and just being kind of distant from PPL. I just didn't feel like myself. I don't think weed is a bad thing, especially if you can use it in moderation. I just struggle with that. I don't. I sure as hell used to, though. My problem was that when I was high, I would just veg out and be unproductive. It got to a point where I just didn't do anything. I just went home after work and smoked weed and sat there. One day I was smoking a cigarette on my sister's front porch, and my niece came out. She asked why I did that, while pointing to my cigarette. And I didn't have a good answer. Smoking never really made me feel calm or relaxed. It was more of a habit. I told her, well, I don't know. But if I don't have a good enough reason to explain it, I'm not going to do it anymore. And that was the last cigarette I had. Stopped smoking weed at the same time. I don't talk to that side of my family, but damn, I'm glad that 5-year-old asked me a simple question that day. This got some responses, so I just wanted to say this is how it affected me. If it works for you and you can do it safely, then by all means go for it. It's not my place to tell anyone what to do. I was just sharing my experience. Fuck yeah dude, nice. It's not as bad as meth, but I'm like a week off those fentanyl-laced fake Percocets won't last. My dude just texted me today and said he'll have more tomorrow, but I called a place today and I'm gonna start in counseling for my bipolar and counseling for the substance abuse, and the one I'm excited about is I'm gonna start getting a Vivitrol shot. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of sad knowing I'm leaving them behind, but overall excited and it's for the best. I was a pothead for 6 continuous years. Had to quit after my existence only became known for weed. My friends were just superficial people who wanted to do drugs with me. That had hamstringed my ambitions, became too dependent on it as an emotional crutch, the memory loss, and of course, how shitty my lungs felt. Nowadays, I'll smoke on rare occasion exclusively, and I'll genuinely enjoy the feeling of being high. I lived in a foggy haze for multiple years, and I'm feeling much better on the other side of things. View my reply on how my journey of addiction unfolded, and how I quit, in the comments below. Here, edit 1. If you are struggling with your addiction, feel free to reach out to me directly. Further, Leaves is a fantastic subreddit for support regarding quitting an addiction. Edit 2. These songs are the songs that got me through addiction. The first is A Reason to Fight, Disturbed, which gave me motivation to continue fighting my addiction. The second is The Funeral, Band of Horses, that emotionally shocked me as I found meaning in the lyrics, expressing that my family and friends were watching me slip away into a dark path in life. Edit 3. This is not the case for everyone, but also, I experienced many of my stomach problems directly from constant, daily use of weed. If you'd like to read more, check out Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. After quitting, my problems dispersed. I kept trying it because of the calming feeling that everyone always talked about, but every time I have tried it, I've completely lost my mind. I'm sure that's what some people call being high as fuck and to just give into it, but it freaked me the hell out only being able to focus on one thing and nothing else ever. And then if I closed my eyes I was on some freaky acid trip where people were reduced to firing neurons and shapes. No frickin' thank you. I stay away from it now because it began to make me more and more anxious and paranoid. I didn't like how loud my thoughts were and the things I was thinking about. I would get very existential and start overanalyzing every aspect of my life, thinking about how I appear in other people's perspectives, whether or not my dreams were stupid and their realism. Not to mention it always turned me into a major cabbage. Being high in the wrong places alone led to some strange situations in my brain. I'm better off without. I thought I was the strange one for experiencing this. It wasn't always like that. I smoked for years and enjoyed it. Things however changed somewhere in my mid-20s and I couldn't enjoy the high anymore. I've since become pretty productive in what would have been my downtime. I'm still an advocate for its legalization. I know a lot of people really enjoy it and can benefit from it. It's just not for me anymore though. Absolutely the same for me. I came to realize the time in my life when I did smoke was when I didn't nearly have the kinds of responsibilities I do now. I enjoyed it because my thoughts could freely go to the things I enjoyed. Now they go to the things that typically give me anxiety. I've only just recently gotten a handle on how to deal with while sober. It also helps to work a job where I'm typically drug tested when switching projects, which really could happen anytime, multiple times a year, though not usually. Everything written here applies to me, however I think my symptoms may have been even worse. I wasn't sure at first on whether it was an environmental thing or the mood I was in, so I tested the theory over more than 24 times. Smoking in different settings, different people, different tweeds, varied amounts etc. etc. No matter the variance, it always led to a crushing anxiety and deep guilt feeling I can only describe as a self-punishing mode, where I feel like I have let everyone down, how much of a failure I am at everything, how much of an imposter I am in my own skin etc. It was almost torturous. The worst points were feeling how much I've let down my dad who had passed away and even feeling like a stranger next to my own wife. As soon as I was sober, those feelings would completely subside. I am quite a spiritual person and weed was bringing my vibration so low, so I quit and took a strong disliking towards it. After stopping for a long while, I feel like I have learned more about myself and perhaps taken a few more steps forward into being my whole self. After taking this long break, I decided to try it again as I felt I was ready to face this feeling to try and uncover the core of it. I recently got hold of some expensive exotic strain. I have been smoking very small amounts very regularly and making sure to not overdo it, just having enough to feel high but not stoned. Safe to say that negative feeling has not come back at all. The last few times it has been a very nice high and I was no longer getting the feeling of being stuck in my own head. I don't know whether I'm in a different place mentally or spiritually, or whether it's because of this particular strain of weed, but it feels good to enjoy it for what it is and no longer feel that crushing guilt, pain when high, even though I was ready to face the demons. All the bad things people in here say it does for them, anxiety, paranoia, loud thoughts, making them feel uncomfortable or uneasy, it does the opposite for me. Weed shuts my brain up and lets me sleep at night. It makes me less paranoid and anxious, less worried about everything all the time, no songs stuck in my head, no getting angry for no reason, or for little reasons, no thinking my significant other is always trying to cheat on me. No overreactions or lack of reaction. It makes me normal, and it helps me get through the day. I mostly tend to vape it, Though I also do edibles and smoke flower, and tinctures, and pretty much every way you can consume it, lol.